Okay, so before we started our episodes today, I wanted to tell you something that I found kind of amusing. So it's Stargate related. So basically, this morning, I woke up and I realized I had had a dream that was very Stargate related, but it was incredibly strange, which got me to thinking my question to you before, but I'll tell you what my dream was. But
Mhm.
my question, I guess, to you or to anyone really is how often, if at all, have you ever had dreams that have Stargate characters in it or the actors or whatever, whether it's specifically Stargate related or it's just like their character or actor. So I don't always remember my dreams, but
But
I
when I do,
woke
they're Stargate related.
wouldn't that be amazing? Um, so I woke up and I'm just like, what the heck was that? And it was like this really, really, really strange dream that I can't remember everything about, but
Mhm.
it involved rollerblading and it involved Lieutenant Colonel Shepard.
Did you go rollerblading with Shepard?
Yeah, so this was really strange. So it was like this really weird thing where there was more to the dream that I cannot remember. And I'm pretty sure there it was like a case of it it was like this weird case of there was things in it that was Stargate related,
Mhm.
but then in the dream itself, I talked about Stargate as if I would as a fan. So it wasn't like I was in an episode of Stargate or
Mhm.
anything. But basically, there's a whole lot to it that I can't fully remember, that's very vague. But then there was, this last part of the dream before I woke up, where I was going through the street, and I was chilling with Lieutenant Colonel Shepard, and we were, really close friends. It was almost, weirdly, childlike. I don't know how to explain it even though we were adults, and so I was, holding his arm, and we were, rollerblading rollerblading together, and then behind us, I'm pretty sure there was, the character Taylor
Mhm.
as Taylor, which doesn't make sense, as, the Taylor character, um, and then I got the feeling, also maybe Ronan was in it as well, but, I didn't see either of them, but it was their presence was, in my mind, I knew they were behind me also rollerblading, and
But
so
wh
it was, this weird thing where, we were just kind of, trying to get somewhere, and then going through the streets, don't know where it was, rollerblading, trying to get to the destination, and he kept going really fast. So then I tried to catch up with him, and that's where I was holding his arm or something and rollerblading alongside of him. And then Taylor, the character Taylor was saying something, but it was we were all a group of friends. So it was
Mhm.
this weird blur of Stargate characters, yet because I felt like the guy that plays Lieutenant Colonel Shepard was also not that character, I felt like it was just the actor, it was just, someone that I was friends with, in the dream, that
Mhm.
was that actor, and, so it was, this weird blend of, certain characters were those characters and other characters were the actors, that play those characters, and we're just rollerblading, and it was, this weird thing that we were in a different country than what I was used to, and it was this weird known thing that whenever anyone went, in a car anywhere, then they would park and immediately get on rollerblades and rollerblade to where they wanted to. Which
Maybe that maybe that's like a new planet, like a rollerblading planet.
it was just so common, and it was, this weird thing too where we were rollerblading and this car, goes in front of us, parks, parallel parks at the side, and the guy whips out his rollerblades, immediately they're on his feet, and he starts rollerblading. And so that's how this whole dream was this weird thing, and so it was, this case of, I it's funnily enough, I feel like I wanna say it was actually Canada. Like like I feel like I was in Canada, and that was, their thing was just park their cars and rollerblade, and, they would rollerblade, long distances and very fast, and so, we're going, and then, he eventually, like detached from my arm and like flew ahead of us. And so then like we're trying to catch up with them. And by we, I mean myself. And then I feel like behind me was Taylor and Ronan. And
Mhm.
and so then it was this weird thing where then we get up to this part where there was like these steps that we had to
Mhm.
walk onto with our rollerblades. And then I was like with like someone else. This is where it blurs into what maybe I was watching yesterday because I've been watching the Alec Baldwin trial. And in it like they mentioned the girl that was like the armory person like and everything, and I swear then she appeared in my dream.
Oh, no.
And then we were talking about Stargate, and then we were like, but again, I didn't see anyone. Like I'm in front of everyone, like, but like I'm just talking to people as if they're there. And then we were starting to like laugh and say something about Stargate, and I was like saying something like, "Well, it's Goa'uld, it's not Gould," and like, and I woke up, and
Oh
it
my
was just so weird, and I'm just like, what the hell is the meaning of any of that? And like, like I know there was like more to the dream that I don't remember, but the main thing I remembered from that dream was just kind of like I was like buddies with Joe Flanagan. That's his name, right? Like, or
Yes.
and I was just like buddies with him, and then like, it was like I was happy we were rollerblading because I miss rollerblading. It was so bizarre.
I mean, obviously, you need to go rollerblading.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You know, Joe Flanagan can can join me in my rollerblading.
maybe you should write a message, be like, "Hey, do you rollerblade?" I
Be
mean,
like,
actually, I'd be
"Hey,
really
sir."
does he rollerblade? I mean, it would be an interesting question, but no,
I don't know.
I feel you on that. I'd go rollerblading with you.
Yeah, maybe we just need to like start a rollerblading Stargate fan loving club, and then we'll just like invite the actors and be like, you know, this is how we do our podcast interviews. We rollerblade and then we ask you questions.
Like gates and wheels or something. They both spin. I don't
Gates and
know.
wheels. Yeah, yeah. See, that's our it's kind of like the equivalent of like when you like see like what was it, Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon that
Mhm.
would do like the car no, it was not neither of them. It was what's his name? Cordell
I don't know, I'm not so familiar with
dang. It was one of the late night hosts that from England.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget his name? He's very, very known. He's also an actor. Anyways, he would do like the thing where he'd go in a car and like do like karaoke with actors.
Oh, I've seen some of the I don't I know what you mean.
I don't know why on earth his name left my mind. I know him, but like anyways, it would be like the equivalent of that, except for our podcast, we have people rollerblade with us,
That would
and
be
then we
amazing.
ask them questions and
That
try
would
to
be
not wipe out.
that would be amazing because, I bought the rollerblades this year, but they're artistic inlines, and so when I go off-road with them, like, it is I mean, on a nice surface, it really nicely glides,
Mhm.
but if I go on anything that's bumpy, like, I go flying.
And I guess for those that don't understand what those are, it's for the purpose of when you're an ice skater, right? So as a way of like practicing like ice
Yeah.
skating without when you don't have access to the ice.
Yes, although there are people that are purely artistic inline skaters and they can
Oh,
do crazy
really?
stuff. Like, yeah, like they can do like triple axles, all kinds of stuff. It's insane. It's
Oh,
insane.
nice.
I can't do that
Nice.
much yet. I'm not that good. I only can do a little bit, but it really helps with my ice skating. So,
Oh my gosh, that's so cool though. But you are a
but
great
yeah.
ice skater, so
But I mean, like, I wouldn't mind, going with the cast of SG-1 and Atlantis and Rutherford.
I know, that would be so amazing. Oh my god, that's gotta happen someday. But anyway, so yeah, that was basically my weird thing that I had to tell you, and I was just curious, like, have you ever had any dreams that involve Stargate, like, characters or the actors themselves or anything to do with Stargate? Have you had dreams that you can remember that were just, like, weird or not just, like, any kinda dream, I guess?
I mean, I can't remember, like, off the top of my head, I can't remember specific dreams, but have I had dreams about Stargate? Yeah, quite a lot. And especially if I was watching it a lot, then I would have dreams where somehow there was a Stargate integrated in my life, or there just appeared characters from the show that were there. The one that kind of I can really think of strongly is I remember, like, I think back when I was pregnant with Odin, and he sometimes would take a nap, and like I would take a nap, and if I had Stargate on in the background, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you kind of like doze off and you can sort of like your subconscious can hear the sound, then it somehow goes into your dream that actually
Yeah.
my dream was kind of following the episode, but in a very different way. And so I remember having some things like that, and for sure, and so for sure there were some of those instances, but like also, I'm certain this, I will have to keep paying attention now, and when it happens, I will make a note of it, and then I'll remember to tell because I
Oh my
know it
gosh.
happens.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should have like a Stargate dream journal. Anytime we have
Yeah,
a Stargate. See, that's
for sure.
actually like my first one that I can think of, at least recently, that I've ever had about Stargate. So that's why like it kind of stood out to me. And then it was just so weird. And like I haven't actually been remembering my dreams for a while. So then that like also stood out to me for that reason. And then I
Yeah.
woke up and I'm like, I gotta tell Alyssa this one. We're recording our podcast today. I'll wait to tell her till we talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that it was written for the podcast, and what's also interesting to me is that you did not mention McKay.
I know!
Was
How
he
weird
not
is
in your
that?
dream?
No! See, he probably wouldn't have wanted like, if you think of the character McKay, he wouldn't have wanted to rollerblade.
No, probably not. But I feel like if he did have to rollerblade, it would be really, really funny. And
Oh my
re
gosh, yes. Yes, maybe he would only rollerblade if it was like Sam was rollerblading along with him in a skimpy outfit.
Yes. It's like, "Sure, I'll rollerblade with you." Um, but I guess that's a nice way to just sort of introduce what we were gonna talk about today, which is, on the one hand, the McKay, I thought it would be really nice to talk about the character development and also our feelings, because I know a while ago we had kind of brought the character up and said, "Yeah, we'll talk later after we get into some Atlantis about our thoughts on the character." And I guess first we'll kind of wrap up the beginning part of that discussion, which was we discussed Maybourne,
Mhm.
and I think we got all the way to Paradise Lost. Um, before I said, yeah, the end of him, I'm curious what you think, how his character trajectory concludes. And
Yeah.
so I guess now I'll start by asking you that. What did you think of the conclusion of Maybourne, and do you still have the same feelings about the character that you did before that?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least how I took that episode, I mean, like, it's kind of like he's kind of one of those characters where it's like, I think we had mentioned this before, where it's kind of like he started off being very, very unlikable, then gradually a more human kind of empathy driven character is kind of introduced in terms of like how he reacts to them, but at the same time, he always has that sneakiness. So it's kind of it's like there's always that sneaky element of him that you just never know fully. Like, is he telling the truth? Is he not telling the truth? And I think that kind of stays throughout. However, there's always still that more lovable side that gradually made me like that character. Then when you fast forward to this final episode, I think, yeah, I still like him. Like, I think he's still like I like that element, that duality of like there's something about him that you like and you feel you can trust, yet there's something about him that you don't like and feel like you can't trust. And then it's like when you get to this and he's freaking pretending he's like a prophet and like taking advantage of the people and basically sitting like a freaking king, you're just like, oh my God, of course he's doing that. Like, of course. Like, that's so ridiculous. But and then it's like I think one of the first scenes you realize it's him. Is when, like, one of the people in the village are, like, feeding him, like, a fruit, and, like, he's just, like, sitting there being fed, and you're just like, Ugh,
Yeah.
so, like, over the top, like, "Dude, are you for real?" But it didn't surprise me at all. It did not surprise me, and then, it's kind of like you see how, like, because of him being like that, it then gets him in a mess because then it's like his people are so trusting of what they feel he's foreseen, um, because he basically is reading those ancient, like the big, I don't know what you would call them, but the things that are further away from where they're all staying, there's the big cement like pillars
Mhm.
basically that have like the ancient like language on it that he can read, and he's basically reading that, and it's foretelling what's going to happen. So then that's how they all start to believe that he's like that. And so like that doesn't surprise me that he's like that, but then it also doesn't surprise me that because he was doing that, it got him in a mess
Yeah.
where it's like, he only read it in a certain way, not realizing like, well, shit, like maybe they're not going to be okay. Maybe is there any mention of him? Is there mention of like him surviving? Is there mention of like how many people are going to survive? Like, because what is it they're trying to, if I can't fully remember, I just remember, was it the Goa'uld
I believe
that
so.
were attacking them?
I believe it was something like that, and then it said in the, this prophecy, quote unquote, that um there would be this group that saves them, and he knew it was going to be SG-1, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because it said, like, because how many members are of SG-1? Is it 4 or 5?
4 at
4.
that time, 4.
Yeah, and so I think it says something like 4 strangers or 4 something, like, come to the world and, like, help them or whatever, but yeah, like, I don't know, yes, there's something about that character that I just really like, about, it's like I like how they've kind of kept that ridiculous side to him. It isn't like he's like totally changed, but I don't feel like he's ever went back to how icky he was in the beginning, and uh basically then, he always seems to eventually try and do the right thing. Like it takes a while, but like he eventually tries to tell his people like I'm not a prophet, and things like that. And if I remember correctly, there was that one lady that was still, like, acting like she was, like, speaking highly of him still after him saying that. That was part of, like, his village or whatever you wanna call it. I don't know if she one of his wives? Do you
I
know?
think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think this is what's kind of in a way very satisfying about the end, because like he's always been this character you kind of love to hate and hate to love. And I mean, of course, you don't dislike him so much by the end. There is some quality about his character that is
Mhm.
really intriguing, but at the same time, it's like it's so satisfying that his character ends up in a situation that you really want him not to be the king anymore, because you want, it to be like, well, he was kind of taking advantage of these people. He should get
Yeah.
his, but then he ends up staying king of them. And I think actually in a way that's really perfect for the character, that it worked out that way.
Yeah, yeah, and even too that he was just willing to want to stay living like that solely because then he's basically like, because like you don't hear anything about his wives until like the very end, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Wait, what wives?
Yeah,
Like
wives.
plural?" Like, and like and it's funny because it's like he kind of insinuates like that's part of the reason that he's wanting to stay there is for all of his
Mhm.
wives. So it's just kind of like you're just like think like, because like, if you think about it, like, the way he is living compared to the modern day world is quite awful in a sense, like, you don't get all of, like, those modern luxuries and stuff, but for him, it must be so important to kind of be so, like, adored
Yes,
and
totally.
loved and thought of like this like abnormally wonderful person. And then, it's like he on top of that has all these how many wives I don't know, all these women. It's like funny because you're just like, okay, if he was in the modern world, like what would he be doing? He'd probably have 0 wives and and like be working with all these slimy men, like trying to like get these ideas of like what else they could like do that's like against the law but get away with it. And so it's like you
Totally.
can kind of see like why he would like stick with that. And like, obviously if he was in the States, he would be in jail, right? Or prison.
Totally,
And
totally.
so like you can see like why he sticks with that. But and I think it's just done in such a funny way too.
Mhm.
It's like there's elements of it that are serious, but then it's also just very humorous. And I think that's what I really liked with how they shifted and changed his character throughout, is that they made there a lot of humor into his character, whereas like in the very, very beginning it was just very serious, very like straight face, very like he's just bad,
Totally.
and
Totally.
then but like I mean, did you have any differing views or similar views, I guess, of that final episode? Did it change at all how you felt about him throughout?
No, I would say I kind of had that the same feeling after Paradise Lost, where it's like really then you're interested in the relationship between him and Jack. And I
Mhm.
think that's the most special thing to me. And so I actually one of the perfect moments of the episode is when they meet each other and um he finds out that he made general and but he's like, "Oh, well, you made king." Like, so it's like the rivalry is still there's still that element, and I love that. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that that was also a small feature, and somehow they were able to make it that they could maintain that a little
Yeah.
bit. Because I think it was always in a way that Colonel O'Neill was kind of playing by the rules, and I guess in this case, General O'Neill was playing by the rules, and Maybourne was always not really playing by the rules in that way, but that made him get sometimes more ahead, and so
Yeah.
it was a really oddly perfect, tie up in a way
Yeah.
that was both
Yeah.
frustrating and satisfying at the same time.
Yes, very true, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just think it's great. Yeah, you're right, because at that point I can't remember how they got Jack to then go on that planet. Did they get him to go on that planet, or did he never appear in that episode?
I feel like he did. They
Yeah.
got maybe they told him, "You have to see this," because, Mayborn
Yeah.
is kinging,
Yeah,
and
there was something about it that I think somehow they got him to go on the planet for some reason.
Mhm.
Because I think at first he wasn't, I think. And then, Mayborn was wondering where Jack was, I think. Um,
Yes.
but yeah. Yeah. I love the Mayborn character. I'm
Yeah.
kind of sad that that was like the last of it. I'm assuming at least it was the last of it.
Mhm.
Like, but I guess story wise, it totally makes sense for that to be the last of it. Like, how much, what else can you add to it that would, really add to the storyline or the character? Probably not much, I would imagine. Although the writers are so great, I'm sure they could think of
Oh, yeah.
something. But
Oh, totally. But I think, it was with the conclusion of kind of Jack's arc on the show, it made sense because they were
true.
so like connected. Um, which of course brings us to the other character that we were going to talk about because I feel like originally he was introduced in a similar way as Mayborn, but not with Jack, but with Carter, with the obvious a little bit differences. But I thought in a way that like Mayborn was introduced as Jack's, nemesis or arch rival or whatever. I think McKay, when he was first introduced in SG-1, he was brought in as sort of this rival and of Carter, especially
Yeah.
because they were working on the same project, and then he was trying to be smarter than her. And I think, so I think in a way, both of them saw things in each other that made them be a little bit, have a little bit of this rivalry going on.
Yeah.
Um, but I know we said when after McKay was first introduced, we said a little bit of our impressions, but I know we said we're going to revisit his character after you've seen some Atlantis. Um, and I was curious how did your impression of his character change so far now that
Oh my
you're
gosh.
through season
Yeah.
2 of Atlantis?
Yeah. Yeah. I love his character. His character is now one of my favorite characters of Atlantis. Which I wasn't sure if I was gonna say like initially when like I saw him in SG1 because it's like, like I said to you, like, gosh, he's such an ass. Like, I can't stand him. Like, and then I remember also saying to you, like, I remember really liking him in Atlantis. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm so confused. Like, because I do remember like the first time through Atlantis, like really liking McKay. And then like so what I think they do so wonderfully in like Atlantis is that of course he's still an arrogant, sarcastic ass. But but again, like similar to like what they did to Mayborn, is that there's there's an underlying thing there with his personality that you get to see into more. Like you get to see like how really ultimately he's probably very, very, very insecure and always feels the need to prove himself so that he doesn't feel insecure. And so then always tries to up himself and say how amazing he is and say all these things. At least that's how I take it, where like ultimately it's because he has a lack of confidence that he's coming across in this other way. And then part of me kind of feels bad for that because he is very good at what he does. He is incredibly smart. Um, but then he does things that are, like, really, like, still asinine, like how he sometimes, like, views women or, um but then you see other episodes where like, you'll see one episode where maybe, like, and we can maybe talk about this episode later, but, like, the episode where he gets, like, stuck in the ship in the water and, he hallucinates Carter
Mhm.
and he basically hallucinates her in this really skimpy outfit with her boobs popping out, but not as skimpy of an outfit as he would have liked, but his mind just, it's not that she had a skimpy outfit on, but her boobs are basically just popping out. Obviously she never dresses like that in SG1. And so it's like you see that side of him where he's like, you know like in some of the things he says in that episode, but then you see the other side of him where I think it was him where see, actually by accident mentioning 2 episodes of mine that are my favorite of his that we're gonna talk about later. But then there's a different episode where he's, like, going on a date with, a fellow coworker or whatever, and he's so nervous about it like, is incredibly awkward, and so anyways, like, it's like, I feel like so far, like you said, I've seen through to the end of season 2, and, I really like his character. I like how they have it progress. I feel like it never feels like he's just stuck in one way. I feel like he subtly shifts and changes. So I feel like there's a part of him that seems to be more caring. I feel like from the beginning of Stargate Atlantis, there was always a small little element of him seeming like uh a little bit more caring than how you at least see him in SG1. And then it gradually kind of like increases because his character is always also getting experience of
Mhm.
going into all these situations that he otherwise would never be in, which helps him kind of as a person become a little bit braver at times in situations even though he panics most of the time and gets so angry. I really like that side of his character because I feel like it's just so human.
Mhm.
I appreciate that side to his character because I feel like too often do you see shows where people will be in these life and death situations and they just act like they're totally fine and he like freaks the fuck out like
Totally.
it's like
Totally.
he just freaks out and like and because of how he puts up this front a lot of the times with how amazing he says he is, I think that plays a huge factor into why he freaks out because
Mhm.
ultimately he's feeling like, oh my gosh, if I can't get this, we're screwed. Like, what if I can't get this? And so it's like they kind of like the actor that plays him does like a wonderful way of just making him have all these layers that definitely were not there in SG1 in my opinion. Like that character was just very one way, just kind of sarcastic, rude, misogynistic, like, and that's how I viewed him. But then with Atlantis, I feel like you definitely see many, many more layers to his personality that I do like, even though it's sometimes he does like asinine things. I still really, really like that character.
Mhm.
But how
Yeah.
about you?
I mean, I would say I agree with you on a lot of that, especially because I think I always appreciate how they never make any character so perfect. They always have this elements of imperfections that make them human, that make them relatable, that make them somehow that you like them and or maybe you don't like that thing about them, but I mean that's how human beings I think are in real life.
Yeah,
It's interesting because my first impression, I remember when I saw him in SG1, at first I couldn't stand him, but then there was a little bit of where he became a bit transparent in this regard because I can't remember if it was the first or second time he appeared, but he gave that spiel to Carter about saying how he wanted to be a pianist and he's just very mechanical and didn't have the art.
right, right.
And
Yeah,
and he said, she's an artist in that sense. And so I think in a way he is so technically good, but I can also see where you see that there's also this element of that you can't necessarily learn, you can't get it from a book, and that is what I think Carter really excels at. Is just this way of thinking that is totally different. Um, but in terms of how he appeared in Atlantis, I really like that they delved more into um, exposing his insecurities because I think in SG1 they went into that a little bit, but it did. I mean, obviously he didn't have the same amount of screen time. He wasn't a main character, so primarily I think he was introduced to create this tension between him and Carter.
yeah.
And although that you get a little touch of him at the end. And I mean, I'm sure, of course, you watch and you go, oh, yeah, of course, this guy's insecure. He thinks he has something to prove. But and then when you watch Atlantis, I think they unfold so many layers. I mean, even from the get-go of him, I love how they made him really anxious because I think it adds some kind of depth, as you said, that he's not always. I mean, it's such a great contrast to Shepard, who is kind of
Mm,
this, similar to like the leaders of the teams in SG1, where they had to be these like go-to guys and ready to do the thing and totally pragmatic and on the opposite hand, you have McKay, who's like the opposite. I can't do this. If we're all gonna die. Like blah blah. And I think that there's a totally expected reaction, and I think it adds something to that, and also it creates this kind of cool chemistry between him and Shepard that I always like. I
yeah,
really love their interactions, and I love it when like he can't do something and Shepard is like whatever you can do it and McKay is freaking out and um I love that they really highlight his insecurities so that yeah, he does say weird abrasive things. And he does have this weird fascination with Carter in a way that yeah, you might find a bit uncomfortable, but then, you dig deeper and realize well he actually is super inexperienced in that regard and probably has no clue what he's doing. And so I mean yeah, it's something that is like of the character, like when you think, oh, that's an unattractive quality of the character, but he starts to work through it. And I also love that as he's working through those things, it's not so smooth.
yeah,
Like sometimes they make it too fast and easy and smooth, but they kind of like he becomes a bit self-aware, but sometimes he's not self-aware not to be you know, always like that he doesn't just transform immediately into being a nice guy. And, so you see sometimes where you're just like, oh my gosh, why are you being this, like with the kids on the planet, when they went to the planet where there were the people that were, I think, only under 25, and he was around some kids and he has no idea what to do with them, is total, doof and,
yeah.
um, but yeah.
Yeah, or even like I forget what episode this was, but the episode where uh all of the or majority of the members of Atlantis were sending home video and like talking about certain things. And I remember there was like this whole like part in it where he like had his own like hard drive or something or a device that he put his whole message on that took forever. And like
Yep.
it's like throughout the episode they show you like him talking, and at first he's very arrogant talking about all of his accomplishments and things like that, and then finally near the end, then all of a sudden he gets to talk about his sister, and then you see like his demeanor change where it's like he's just like really caring about his sister and wishing that they were actually closer, and things like that, that then he becomes a little bit less arrogant and
Mhm.
more like a likable character. So it's like you see the shift and change of like how his mind must work with like his arrogance and his constant talked about brilliance, and then the other side of him that's a little bit more humble, I guess. If you
Mhm.
can even use that word with McKay, but it's just I can't think of another word. But and you're right too with him and Shepard. Like it's like Shepard purposely pulls on those strings of of what he knows will make McKay actually succeed, even though it sometimes makes him more anxious. So it's like he
Yes.
knows like if he tells him like we're all gonna die if you do not fix this in 10 seconds, like he knows that something's gonna click in McKay's brain that somehow always pulls through that manages to help him do the impossible. And like they
Mhm.
really rely on that. So it's like he knows what strings to pull to kind of mess with McKay's like mental state to make him get into that point of like, okay, we're gonna get through this. Um, but that kind of leads into one of my favorite episodes, if you don't mind me mentioning.
Go for it, let's
Um,
start, yeah.
is the episode, hold on, let me I took a screenshot so I didn't forget what the names of them were. Okay. Whoops. Yeah, so kind of leads into slightly like an interesting thing with that is that season 2 episode 14,
Mhm.
Grace Under Pressure. So that's
Mhm.
where he hallucinates Carter and he's stuck in this ship that had like a puddle jumper, right? That I think that's what it was, or was it a
Mhm.
different kind of ship? And it sunk into the water, and the other guy he was with dies, but like he's stuck in that little section that he's, you know, trying to figure out how to get out of the water, has no contact with anyone, and you know, eventually like water could get in and things like that, and he's losing his shit because that would be absolutely terrifying. Like that, like just that whole thought like made me want to panic. I was just like, oh my god, like that's truly horrible. Like I felt so like awful for his character. But like in that, you know, he doesn't have people like Shepard to kind of like help him try and figure out a way to make it through, and you know, figure out something to help himself. And so I think like it's just a like how he that actor I think is so talented just with how he
Totally.
portrays his character.
100%.
Like he like amazes me like how he's able to show his thoughts in his face without saying anything, which I know all good actors can do that, but like truly as an actor, I just like I really appreciate him. He's like amazing. Like I think
Mhm.
he's so talented. And so like in this episode, it's like you see his mental state just kind of like deteriorate but then come back together, and then he's able to like there's like part of the scene where it's like I forget, like, what had happened, but it made him kinda become delirious where he starts laughing, and
Yes,
he's,
yeah.
like, laughing, but then wondering why he's laughing, and then it's like he's, like, battling those thoughts of, "Wait, why am I laughing?" And then, like, he's laughing, and I was, like, dying, like, I was just like, "This is crazy," and then eventually he gets to the point where he hallucinates Carter, and then that's what helps him kind of, like, deal with the situation, and, it's just like there was just like, you know, it's like not many people whenever I've seen like even in other shows or movies, actors that have the show or movie that's solely about them and they're in maybe one location and the
Mhm.
whole storyline is based off of them in this one location. I think it takes a very powerful like ability to be able to have it be something that people want to watch, both with the storyline, obviously what the rest of the team does and everything in terms of editing and all of that. But just with like the actors' ability as themselves, not every
Yep,
actor I think could really sell that in a way
totally.
and I just think the way he plays McKay, like I just love it so much. And he was just like amazing in that episode. That's why that was one of my favorite episodes of him because I feel like it shows the different elements of McKay's personality where he, doubts himself, yet he's brilliant enough to try and come up with ideas. So much so that he creates a fake Carter because he's obsessed with her. And then, of course, he has to kiss Carter because, of course, why not? Because he has that opportunity. It's just like funny. And then, like, he's trying, but then he has the annoying qualities where it's like he figures, well, cool, if I'm hallucinating this, then she should be naked. Like, but then even his own mind realizes like, "Okay, that's really asinine, dude. That ain't happening."
Yeah. I thought that was funny that his mind kind of stopped him from it. But I mean, this is like classic Stargate that it's so serious of a situation and so dire, but they have
Yeah.
this little, like, I mean, the laughing is such a weird and powerful thing when you really think about it because it is kind of like goofy and uncomfortable, but at the same time, like when it happens, you're like, oh, he's hypoxic or not having enough breathing, and so it's
Yeah.
also very you're like afraid, and then I thought it is also so telling, like, he conjures up Carter because, like, that's the one person I mean, there's a reason he was, somewhat, like, having this rivalry with her from the beginning because on the one hand, he's attracted to her, and on the other hand, I think he sees that she has something he doesn't, and that's
Yeah.
it's, like, a little bit threatening, but in that moment, I think he needed to think like her in a way or to try and use that, and then so it's very I also really love that episode,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just as a it's a I mean, you're absolutely right, this kind of episodes are usually they're very difficult, and it's very difficult to maintain attention and an intrigue through the whole thing, and, I mean, you're kind of tense the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like I found myself like starting to feel like I couldn't breathe right. Because it's just like he's stuck down there. Like that would be like one of my biggest fears because I do not like water. Like I like looking at water from the surface, but I do not like the thought of being stuck way deep down in water. Like that like has always been like such a big fear of mine that like it was playing on my like
Oh
anxiety
my
with
gosh.
that that then, like, when all this is happening, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I could put myself in that place, and I could imagine feeling like this, and this," and then, like, before I know it, I have to just tell myself, "Emily, it's just a show. It's
Yeah.
just a show. Do not start freaking out and hyperventilating because it's just a dang show." But, like, yeah, so anyways, like, did you have any specific, episodes that specific to McKay that are one of your favorites just for whatever reason with how his character is in that.
I mean, I would say right now, we won't talk about it yet, but so far my favorite McKay episode is the Death of Rodney, but there's also a couple others in season 3 that are really, really good for his character development. Um, one thing I will say, because I also really appreciated this moment, like I'll talk about a couple moments because I think they're like the moment in I think it's the letters from Pegasus where he does the video.
Mhm.
This isn't a spoiler, it's not gonna spoil anything, but that actually does come back later.
Oh, does it? Okay.
yes, and you'll love it,
Okay.
you'll love it. So it's very soon and you'll love it. Um, I mean, it's just a little throwaway thing, but I love how they do those kinds of things. Um, but I love, I mean, already in the beginning, I think in one of the first episodes, they have McKay where he puts on the personal shield, and then they immediately show his character's insecurity and fear and that he wants to be protected. And I thought that was really interesting that they they immediately open with that.
Yeah.
Um, some of the like in terms of big ones that would probably stand out, I would say the one where he ended up having to share his consciousness, and I know you mentioned this.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes.
um, because I thought it was a really great episode because I mean, one of the situation and also showing the depth of the like I love this kind of episodes because it also shows the depth of the actors that can manage these situations. Plus, there were amazing moments with Beckett in it because there was this weird love thing going on between the person trapped in McKay's head and Beckett and then McKay and the girl he wanted to date, right? So I thought that was just so brilliantly done. I know you brought it up, so you probably
Oh my
earlier, so you
god.
also want to talk about it too, but I thought this was
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yes, that was, like, the other favorite episode of mine with him, because, again, like, you have to be a really good actor to be able to appear as if there's 2 consciousnesses in you. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and just,
Exactly.
like, the different mannerisms and, like, everything is just so damn funny, and, like, I don't know why, but sometimes when I watch, the actor that plays McKay, I don't know if it's a certain feature on his face or if it's his way he acts sometimes that reminds me of Robin Williams for some reason.
I could see that. I think part of it is some facial feature and maybe like a bit of expression, but I think it's like the
Yeah,
jawline for sure.
yeah.
Like the jawline I can see.
Yeah. So like also in this, like I could imagine if Robin Williams was playing that character, I could imagine him doing the same choices with how he acted it out. And I just loved it so much because it was just such a funny episode because it's like, yes, like again, crazy serious that someone's consciousness is stuck in someone else's body. Like, and the fact that they potentially have to die off almost, I think was one of the things they were worried about, like getting
Yes.
her body back and being able to put that consciousness back into her body. And so all these really, really serious things that would be quite terrifying, but then at the same time, it's freaking hilarious because it's like he's freaking out because he constantly has this other person's voice in his head and it's driving him crazy, but he can't get away from it because it's from him. And then
Totally.
just like the mannerisms of like that he has when he is the female character. Sorry, I can't remember what her character's name was called, but basically, I think it's when we're first introduced to that character, right? And then I think she is in
Hmm.
another episode briefly, like a few episodes after that. But yeah, it's just amazing. And then the awkwardness of like the the dinner, whatever that he has, the dinner date that he has with the lady he was happy to be like on a date with, and then he's wondering why the hell Beckett's there because it's like when he was the female like consciousness, like she's inviting Beckett and pretending that she's Rodney because she likes Beckett. And it's just like this whole like funny thing. And it's like you says, then like it's more near the end that like when they're trying to like figure out like how to just get it back to just being like Rodney. And it's like then he goes and kisses Beckett because like he's that female figuring, okay, here's my chance. If I never get the chance, I'm gonna kiss him now. But like that's just gotta be so funny, like as the actors themselves. Like so awkward.
Well, I mean, imagine it just as a like imagine having another consciousness in your brain, right? And
Yeah.
there's someone you know that I mean, especially when you're on a friend basis with someone like that it would feel incestuous. Like, and I imagine like between McKay and Beckett, as much probably fan fiction as there is out there, I'm sure it probably has this incestuous feeling because they're such good friends and then it feels like it's your brother or your sister or whatever. And I mean,
Yeah.
imagine like you had no choice but to do that because you have another, it would feel so, I mean, I guess that's similar to like having a Tok'ra Ghoul, but on a different level because you're still your, like, I don't know, it would be, I would also
Oh
be weirded
my
out.
gosh. Yeah, that'd be so weird. That'd be so weird. And then it's like after the fact, like once everything has changed back to normal, it's like, how do you not every time you see that person just feel incredibly weird about what happened?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Uh,
I can imagine that that would be tough, but I mean, luckily they're super super good friends, but in that moment, I'm sure he's probably like, "What is going on? What are you doing?" I mean,
yeah.
especially Beckett, like, "Why are you doing this?"
Yeah. Or then also a very funny thing that I found too that they tied into that whole situation was the fact that that girl was incredibly like physically fit and used to like going on long runs. And then you have McKay who
Oh
never
yeah.
exercises, or at least they insinuate as if he doesn't exercise very often. And then it's like he wonders why the hell he's so damn sore. Because then she decides to like take him on a run because she's
Yep.
stressed and that's what helps her anxiety. And it's like, I'm like, "Oh my god, imagine exercising against your will when you think you're sleeping."
Oh, yeah, and then you're, like, sore because, I mean, the soreness of exercising, some people love it and some people hate it. Like, I am
Yeah,
one I love having, like, muscle pains on top of muscle
yeah,
pains, and I love the feeling of, "Oh, I just worked out for
yeah,
forever." It makes me feel so good, but I can totally imagine if that's not into it and you wake up and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't move."
yeah,
That would be so
yeah,
crazy. That is just
yeah,
I mean, I think what's also amazing is they did it with McKay, because I think if it happened with Shepard, I mean, Shepard's a kind of an open dude. He's already, I mean, and I think, Taylor is also the sort of the played as the more like empathetic one and the diplomat, and so it wouldn't have, but because McKay is so, in a way, he's kind of presented as closed off and he works on his own, and he also has this weird, like, almost sort of like non-team player type thing where he is, the top one, and I mean they expose this a lot as well. So I think the fact that they did it with him was brilliant, because him having to share his own physical space. And I think that kind of really touched deeply into his, because I mean the episode was partially about him, his interpersonal relationships, but it also kind of touched on why he struggles so much with that too. So I thought that was kind
yeah,
of like, it's so humorous, but in a way there's a serious layer to it that I thought
yeah.
was really nice.
Yeah, yeah, and then I also really love, and I didn't think to look ahead of time to think of specifics, but I think I have posted, like, one of them on our Instagram a while ago, but, like, I do love a lot of the interactions McKay has with other characters in terms of good quotes. Like, he sometimes says the funniest damn things. Like, I can't remember what some of them are now, but like whenever like I'm watching, if like I hear it, then I'm like I literally have to like kind of like constantly like rewind it back and then like I type up like the quote so that I can remember to put it up later on like our Instagram or whatever because like I find his like interactions to be the funniest because
Totally.
his insults are so weird. Like they're just so weird and it like comes out of nowhere. Like just like it's just really funny that I'm just like those are some of my favorite moments with his characters when he's like bickering back and forth with someone and then he says like something that's very insulting but very funny at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Also, one of my favorite moments, and I have no idea why this always stuck out in my head as so funny, but it's they go onto a planet, and almost the minute that they're on the planet, they get shot at, and he gets shot with an arrow in the butt cheek, and he just says, "That did not just happen."
Oh my god, did I see that? That sounds familiar, but I don't know. Have I seen that? Is that in season 1 or 2?
I'm not sure. Now that I think about it, I don't know, but if you haven't seen it, you will see it, and it's one of my favorite,
That's so
like, just
funny.
short little McKay moments, because the way he kind of turns around and it's like he's just in shock and he's like, "That did not just happen."
I think I vaguely remember that, so I think I probably have seen it, but yeah, or at least similar moments like that where something does,
Hmm.
like, happen and then he says that, like, yeah, no, that's great, like, I would imagine, like, like, this is random, like, not specifically with McKay, but I've always thought, like, if we were ever at, like, a Comic-Con or something where we see the actors, I'm just, like, always wondering, like, I wonder if any of them had to choose, like, a character that they would want to be if they couldn't choose the character that they played. Like, who would it be and why? Like,
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah.
like, um, because, like, I feel like granted, like, they all probably got so into their character that maybe they couldn't imagine being one of the other characters because then they think of the other person that did it, that they did it really well. But, like, I kinda wonder, like, if any of them would really love to be, like, the McKay character, like, if they had to choose
Hmm.
or whatever. Like, not that I can necessarily envision that because 'cause I'm so stuck with seeing the specific people, but, like, yeah, that'd be really funny, or it'd be really funny if they had an episode similar to what they did in SG-1, where, like, they had it when, like, uh, that that device that made Daniel the older dude, the
Oh yeah, Marcello. Yeah.
Machello, and then they ended up having, like, Jack be Teal'c and Teal'c be
Hmm.
Jack, and so it'd be so funny to see, like, all the characters be other people, like, within their group. That'd be funny if they did that in Atlantis. Maybe they do, I don't know.
I mean, it also sounds like a fun, like, skit idea for, some kind of like, like how sometimes shows do like humorous shorts and stuff. I
Yeah.
could totally see that being a really funny, humorous short where then they're all body swapping.
Or like a good like acting exercise for an acting
Yes,
class, like have it be
totally.
that if the person touches you on the shoulder, you have to be them and they have to be you.
That's a really good idea, actually. I mean, you should really suggest that.
Maybe they already do that, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I've
Somebody
only
tell
done
us if
like
they already do that.
I've only done like very beginner acting classes way back
Same,
in the
yeah.
day, but my daughter's really into acting, and so like I'll have to ask her if they ever do anything like that because they do all sorts of like interesting like exercises like before they actually like practice their plays and stuff. So like sometimes she tells me about them. So yeah, if
Yeah.
that doesn't exist, it should exist because I think that'd be funny.
Totally, totally. It sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. No, I think that the situations like that though really show the depth and range of a lot. Like, I mean, when you think it's a sci-fi TV show, so probably when you think about this kind of things, I don't think they're always planning that this is a feature of it. Like, when you think about like the earliest, like Star Trek and things, like I don't think their main goal was, oh, we get people that have really um, diverse acting ranges, but I'm always impressed with Stargate, how
Yeah.
like they have such depth in what they can do and like it's crazy. And it's
Yeah.
just yeah, so many
Yeah.
situations. Yeah.
They're all so talented as actors, and then I'm sure they also have the other things they're very talented with as well. Like, I didn't know, like, the actress, Rachel Luttrell that plays Taylor, how she's also a singer and
Oh
is
yeah, yeah,
into
yeah.
musical theater, and I think now she has her own, like, acting, like, theater group that she like also
That's so
teaches
cool.
in, and then it's like all of them are so talented, and that's like as a film composer for myself, one of my dreams would be to work with Amanda Tapping as a director. Like, oh,
Yes, yeah, that would be
my
amazing.
life would be complete if that were to ever happen. So I'm putting that out into the ethers to one day work with Amanda Tapping. Like that would be amazing.
That
And
would
I
be
know like
amazing.
technically as a music composer, you don't always work directly with the director. It kind of sometimes depends like who's in control, that kind of thing. But I think it'd be so amazing if I got to work directly with her, like on
Totally.
a project, like because she just seems so like she honestly seems like someone that me and you would totally be, like, really good
Totally.
friends with, like, she has our weird sense of humor, and sometimes I see her, like, in, like, interviews where she'll say things, I'm like, "Oh my god, me and Alyssa would totally say that." Like and then sometimes it's, like, awkward because it's like the interviewer doesn't quite get that sense of humor, and then they just kind of, like, gloss over it and then go on to the next question. But, like, if it was me and you, I feel like we would totally, like, understand that, and we
Yes.
would, like, feed into, like, what just happened there. Like, if she did something really nerdy and, like, said something really dorky, like, we would, like, dive deep into the weirdness.
I mean, remember, I would bring you underwear too if you forgot your underwear.
Yes, see, we have all of that in common, man. So it's like, yes, she needs to become our friend. It just has to
Yeah.
happen.
But yeah, that would be an amazing dream collab. I
Oh my god, yes. Yeah. Like it's funny because it's like so many times it's like people have all of these like names of people that they would love to work with or different directors for all like these like different reasons, but no, like I just love Amanda Tapping. I love Stargate and therefore I must work with her one day.
No, I mean it's not silly at all. Like I remember when because I went to UBC, the University of British Columbia, for people that don't know, and I applied to a few different places, and of course one of the draws of going there was that the tuition was lower, and so my scholarships went further. But I would say the big, big, big draw was the Stargate was filmed there.
Yes, that's amazing.
And then I read like later like Michael Shanks went to UBC,
Oh
and then
my
I
gosh, so
feel
cool.
it feels so crazy to me because actually Christopher Judge went to the U of O.
Which you went to,
Yeah.
yes?
So I felt very like proud to say that my first university had a member of Stargate and then my next university.
Oh my gosh. It's kind of like a weird, what did they call it? Like, I've never fully understood it, but you know how like they used to have that thing that they'd say like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or something like
Yes,
that, and everything could
exactly.
be linked back to Kevin Bacon. Well, you have like all these connections that can be linked to Stargate people.
And I remember it was so crazy because I think right away when I was there, we ran into somebody just walking to the park that was a wraith,
Oh my
and
God. Ah,
and I and
my
then
dream.
I think also someone who was at a birthday party of that my son had gone to, their parent was also in some episodes, like as an extra or something. But yeah, I mean, it was just
Dang.
you get, oh, it's so crazy. And actually, Martin, he went to like I remember he lived near or shopped near the person that was playing Walter, and they saw
Oh
him all
my
the time.
gosh. That's so cool. I would just be like the happiest human if any of that happened to me. Like yeah, no, if I had lived near where they filmed Stargate, without a doubt I would have been trying to be an
Hmm.
extra on that if it was around the same time that they were filming. Because like I've done like a few like I've it was just like once a long time ago I did an extra thing when I lived in Portland. Um
Hmm.
and it was for the show Grimm. And that was fun, but like honestly, like can you imagine how amazing it would be to be like an extra on Stargate? Like even if you're just someone pretending like you're typing on a computer or anything, like I would just be like it would be so fun.
It
It
would
would
be
be so fun
amazing.
just because, like,
So
I'm such a
amazing.
nerd about the whole show. Like, I really have 0 desire to be seen. Like, that would not be my reason for being an extra by any means. But it would just be, like, because then you're in the same room and you're in the process of this whole, like, amazing show. Like,
Yeah, you get to see
that'd
the
be great.
set. Maybe you get to
Uh,
go on a mothership or off world or through the
oh
gate.
my god, yeah. Oh,
I want to be the extra that goes through the gate and then dies on the other side.
wouldn't that be amazing? I've always thought it'd be amazing to just be a dead character. On a trip that I was at when I was a teenager, part of it. But the guy that was like the bus tour person that spoke and showed us around, he actually had met Will Smith and he had been also like an extra on things. That's why I was thinking of it because we are talking about silly extra stuff of being a dead character. And he always says that he was in this episode of I forget the name of the actor that was in this movie, but the Water World movie. And there was like, I guess, a big scene in it where it was showing all these dead people. And he's like, yeah, if you see the guy that's like, he's like, that was me. I was the dead guy. I was
Oh my gosh. Oh
and
my
I
God.
always thought, wow, that would be like so much fun. Like to
Hmm.
either just get like become like a creature. Like I would be willing to sit there for the whole day just to become like a freaking wraith or something. Or like, just like something. Like I always thought it'd also be cool to be in The Walking Dead and be like a zombie. Like that kind of stuff just seems amazing because I by no means care to be seen. Yet I would love to be like some like crazy monster thing that no one knows it's me.
See, I think you would make a really amazing Wraith, to be honest. I don't know why, but I can really
My
picture
big
you as a
long
Wraith.
face.
Like I can picture you as a Wraith and like with your hair and everything. I could totally picture you like perfect Wraith.
Oh
And I
my
could
gosh.
but I could also totally see you making some of the faces they make. Maybe that's why like I can imagine you go,
Yes.
and then
That would be fun. That would be fun. It would be so fun for both of us to be wraiths. I think you would make an amazing wraith as well. Like, yeah, we could
I
both
could
do the
I could
weird like facial like
yeah,
expressions and stuff.
I could see a Wraith, but I think I'd make a better grow older replicator maybe.
Oh my god, you're right. That would be amazing. Yeah. Yeah. One day we got to do that whether it's for a Comic-Con or for Halloween or something.
Maybe when we go to a con, we should dress up as the bad guys. Like
Yeah.
one day bad guys, one day good guys.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like I wish like it wasn't like I wish like I knew someone that was like a makeup artist that like with prosthetics and everything that could make me a wraith. That would be amazing.
That would be
So,
amazing.
but yeah, sadly, I don't know anyone that could do that. Plus, that would probably be very expensive.
But you never know. Maybe by the time we go to a convention, you can become a
Yeah.
wraith.
Yeah. But anyways, I think our last thing that we were going to mention, if at all, was is there any other characters that you changed your mind about from like when you're first introduced to their character to like, however far you watched within the episodes of Atlantis or whatever, or SG1. I can't think of anyone honestly besides the ones we mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because like, okay, there's Vala who is kind of introduced as like a nemesis, but you really like the character from the beginning. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of a similar transformation. I mean, I guess there's some characters like within the NID, like Agent Barrett or Woolsey, where they're kind of first introduced in like a way that you don't like them, and
Yeah.
later on they become more gray. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can see their perspective, and I think that it's something really cool about the show because they have this way of also forcing you to think outside of just this black and white of the show. That
Yeah.
so I actually really like that there's characters like that where sometimes you think, oh, I kind of agree with what they're saying, but I know that's not really good for Stargate. But I mean, at the same time, they have a point, but also at the same time, I know there's this complicatedness of it, and so
Yeah.
I appreciate that they're always so aware of this in the show.
Yeah. I guess Wolsey would be one of the ones that I guess I'm on the fence with that kind of go back and forth with how I feel about him.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
he is totally like
yeah.
some, but that you also kind of understand, like you have to, okay, I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, yeah, he always kind of throws a little
Yeah.
uncomfortable. But I will say this, when you get to season 3 of Atlantis, there's some amazing moments between Woolsey and O'Neill, and it's one of my favorite parts of
In Atlantis?
in Atlantis,
Oh, okay.
and you're
Ah.
gonna love it. You're gonna love
Oh my gosh. I look forward to that.
it.
Oh my
hmm
gosh. So I guess maybe for those that are listening, I guess the last questions we would have for you is kind of what we went through is like, are there any McKay moments that we didn't mention that you can think of that you just really love with McKay? What is your thoughts of McKay, like from when you're introduced to him in SG1 up to about season 2 of Atlantis ish?
hmm
Because I don't want any spoilers because I'm selfish like that. um,
Yeah, no season 3 yet.
Yeah, no, season 3, but I will be getting there probably today, but, yeah,
I
no
mean,
spoilers.
by the time this is published, it's probably okay to talk
I
about
know,
season
right?
3.
With
You'll
how
be
fast
through
I'm
all of it.
flying through it. But yeah, what are your thoughts of McKay or Maybourne, or any characters that we maybe didn't think to mention that you kind of changed your mind about, through SG1 or Atlantis?
Mhm.